So while at one point Germany did move all of its troops to the east to fight with Russia, Russia ended up bowing out and then moving back over to the west side. Russia, as mentioned before, the Russian government wanted to get involved in the war, increased spending, but when they increased spending, it took away the food and the resources from the people. The more money spent on the war equals less money for the country itself. Then there was a Bolshevik revolution led by Vladimir Lenin, who ended up telling the Russian government and eventually overthrowing them that we do not want to be in this war. So the Russians bowed out, leading Germany to lead back to the west. Eventually, the U.S. entered the war. They were not interested in being in the war, although it started in 1914. U.S. didn't get involved until 1917. Woodrow Wilson, who was the president at the time, wanted peace and neutrality, but then a series of things happened. There was a sinking of it was a British ship called the Lusitania by a German U-boat or a submarine. It was a British ship, but there were over 100 Americans involved, which really angered the American people. And then the U.S. government caught wind because Germany was sending this telegram to Mexico saying, hey, if you help us out, we'll help you to get back Texas and we'll give you independence and you can have U.S. land. But it was intercepted and the U.S. found out. And that was kind of the last straw. And then finally, on April 2nd, 1917, the U.S. entered World War I. Couple big things here. You had the Battle of Jutland, which was the greatest naval battle in World War I. And then you had one of the first wars, or the first war, where there were planes that were used to fight in this war. Thanks to the Wright brothers, who made planes just a few years earlier than that, this was the first war to have bomber jets and different jets as playing a large role in the war. Back to the Western Front. After the Russians bowed out, you have the Germans move back over, and Germany attacked France. But the British and the U.S. now were there to support. The Allies pushed Germany back, and that would be Germany's last big offensive in this war. Eventually, the Central Powers, led by Germany, began to unravel and signed a ceasefire in 1918. There was a meeting in Paris where there were treaty talks. Wilson gave 14 points of peace, including the creation of the League of Nations, and people agreed to it. The treaty was signed that was very harsh towards Germany, but that's what they agreed on, and that's what they said would be the only way to end the war. The treaty involved 5 main different things. Germany had to surrender 10% of its new territory. It demilitarized Germany, meaning they had to kind of dissolve their army to an extent, limited their armed forces, put their leader on trial for war crimes, and then they forced Germany to take full responsibility and to pay for the losses that the Allies suffered in World War I. Meanwhile, Serbia's chilling there like, well, we started all, but Germany's really the one that has to deal with all the punishments. A legacy left. You had 20 million deaths and another 20 million injured. A lot of different empires we've talked about this year collapsed. The U.S. tightened up within our country for different movements or against different movements in civil rights. However, women's rights movements did begin, leading to all of the different women's rights amendments, such as the 19th for the right to vote. Germany was angry. Their economy was wrecked. They didn't have any money. They had to pay everybody back from money that they didn't have. And they let that stew, and they were mad for about 20 years until something happened next.